Tana, I know I shouldn't be drinking these, man. It's Sunday. It's the Lord's Day. But Lil beat your ass so good to me. This is like my third or fourth one right here,
I
brother.
was about to tell you to pump your brakes, but you know what you can get you, man?
What?
You get you a BOGO deal.
From Paisanos?
What? That BOGO deal is the real deal.
I think you might be right. I probably need that. Put something on this, man. That's where you use the online code BOGO Pizza, right?
Yeah, man, you get you one pizza and get the second pizza for equal or lesser value for free.
I'm going to need more than that. I'm going to need me about 4, 5, 6 pizzas right now. Put something on it, baby.
Hey, you see, I'm over here, man. I might take a slice or two.
Well, what about Lil beat your ass?
His ass is whooped.
Coming up on the Santana Moss Show podcast, we have a special guest in studio, and we'll talk about Tana's trip west, y'all.
Stephen A. Smith said that Nick Foles is our best choice at QB. Do you think so?
I don't think so. In fact, I think Kyler Murray's the best choice. We'll talk about him, too.
Kareem Hunt get a second chance by the Browns. Browns.
Ooh, Browns. What you think about the AAF? You know what? Don't answer that, Tana. We'll talk about it in the show.
They say Cardi B and my man Childish Gambino took home gold.
In Taking L's, we're talking Valentine's Day losses. Not for us, though. We're Casanovas. Santana Moss Show podcast starts right now. Lovers.
It's a Santana Moss Show. Number 89, hustle all the time. Travis on the right, hot mic on the left. Every single week, it's a lyrical fact.
That's a song to live by right there. Santana Moss Show podcast. Yeah, buddy, Travis Thomas, Santana Moss, special guest. It's an honor. I want to take a little sip before I even.
Yeah, take one.
You know how my intros are, right?
Yeah.
I just want to say, we have Clinton Yates from ESPN.
What's up, kiddos?
Now, Here's the deal. I feel like I really know this brother for 2 reasons, okay? I'll start with the first time I met him, and then I'll get into his career. First time I met him was at a Caps playoff game. I'm about to stunt right now. We were in the NBC suite, okay, with some mutual friends, and I'm a big fan of his, right? I walk up to him, hey, Clinton, big fan. I'm Travis Thomas. I'm going to show you how real my man is. He goes, I know who you are. Daps me up. We clink some beers and go on and watch the Stanley Cup
knowing
champ.
you, your head grew that big.
It's the truth, though, man.
He wasn't offended, but he was like, man, I know who you are.
It was a great time. We were at the Caps game. They're doing good.
That's true.
I'm styling in the suite. I'm like, I got time for this noise, brother. We're here together.
And then the second thing that really stands out, and I know you feel me on this, as black men in this industry, Lord knows we go through it, okay? We don't have enough time in this podcast to get into all that. However, when you see a young black man like Clinton doing his thing and representing us the way he does, as intelligent as he is, and he represents the culture too.
Yes.
Because just the way he look right now, he goes on TV.
You
on
daggone real.
Straight up.
people try to hate on him. I see it on Twitter. They hate on him.
You can't hate.
Can't hate.
Thank you very
cannot
much,
hate.
gentlemen.
Well, I want to ask this before we let you speak, because I knew you covered my skins, and I know you did a lot of writing up in this area.
Tana feels some type of way.
Did you ever say anything bad about your boy over here,
Tana
man?
feels some type of way,
I want to know,
Clinton.
man.
I'm trying to think. Outside of you being
I'm
my
just
favorite
messing
Washington
Really?
wide receiver of all time.
Really?
Yeah. No.
Talk about that.
It's true. You unseated Gary Clark.
Yeah.
So that's
And
the
Gary
generation
Clark
I
gets on
came
me
from.
all day about that.
GC is my boy. He was my dad's boy. Tana came along. I was like,
That was your guy.
I'll never forget 2 touchdowns at Dallas. Sitting on the couch in college with my boy. We're packing it in. Drinking a couple beers.
Right.
It's a Monday. It's raining, kind of like it is today. Gloomy mood.
Yeah.
1 touchdown.
Ooh.
2 touchdowns. We going out. Got up off the couch, went straight to the bar, decided we were going to get hammered and tell everybody about it. It was a great time.
But that's when I became his boy.
Yeah.
There it is,
Hey,
man.
that was literally the moment.
He was a rally guy.
No, but I appreciate that, gentlemen. I mean, look, this business is what it is, and you try to be yourself. And the main reason I do that is so kids know you can do that and still make it. That's really what it's all about to me from a message standpoint. I had my hair long for a while. Cats would be like, why are you looking so nappy? I'm like, because I'm not ashamed of my nappiness.
That's right.
This is what my hair looks
for
like.
you, man.
I don't want everybody to have to feel they got to look a certain way or be a certain way. You got to have the talent, and you got to have the interest, and you got to have the drive, and maybe it'll work out. So that's where I'm at.
We see you on TV and we hear you on podcasts and radio and things of this nature. But the reality is you are a prolific ass writer, though. That's where you got that's the genesis of you, correct?
It is. I appreciate that. And what I learned from writing is that there's just so much more to every single situation when you really have to put the word to it. That's really sort of the main thing that comes with journalism, in my opinion, when you write it down, is that you've got to describe everything. You've got to find a way to bring people into your world and bring them into a space that they understand where you're coming from. And you can't just talk and use facial expressions. And so what I've learned from writing is that in reporting, you do radio, you write, you do TV. I wouldn't do one without the other, but the writing is what informs the most authority about most of the things that I do because, it's written down and people refer to it, and it's not harder, but it's not on the spot. So you got to construct things, and that's really where my love for it.
To me, that's a special talent.
No doubt.
And we're around guys like Grant Paulson who does well at that.
Shouts to GP.
I will ask you, and just being a guy in my shoes that, folks ask me all the time because I get a lot of parents that ask me, so when did you know you was going to be great? Never. Like, when did you – I always thought that I was going to be special because I was going to put the work into it. From your profession, from your standpoint as being a writer, did you feel like you come out the womb with that talent, or it was something that you said, this is what I can do because of something that someone told you, or you just felt like you was good at it?
It was a little of both. To me, writing is also key to just sort of life. You know what I mean? If you're a bad writer in terms of constructing ideas and putting things together in a way that is cohesive, you're probably not going to be good at a lot of other things. Right. But in terms of doing it for a living, I didn't go to college expecting to do this. My second college was Miami of Ohio. And I'd gotten in a car crash in my life. I was kind of at a space where I didn't know what I wanted to do next. And I went back to school, and my dad said to me, dude, all you do all day is listen to the radio and read the newspaper. Why don't you give it a shot? Wow. And I was like, you know what? Good idea. And so when I got to Oxford, which is where Miami is, there was a student paper. And it was August of 2001. And I'm in the student radio booth. I'm doing, getting on the student radio grind, doing football, doing, other things, getting my way into the business as best I know how. Exactly. Then 9/11 happens. And I decided to sit down and write something about it for the week after, because remember, the games were canceled. People forget that, is that they canceled the games, and it was on a Tuesday. Yeah. And so you had a long wait until the next games were played. And it was a very awkward amount of time for the sports world because all you could really talk about were the attacks, but at the same time, there were all these logistical issues. And so I wrote a column basically saying that the return to normalcy is going to be hugely important for a lot of America through sports. And I turned it into the guy who was the editor of the student paper. He said, he printed it verbatim and said, what you got for me next week? And I was just like, well, guess I'm doing this now. And so at that point, I got a shot, and I figured I might as well try to do this. And I was there. I was lucky enough to be there when Ben Roethlisberger was there. Yeah. So, I had somebody to cover who I could tell was going to be a pro and got a little exposure from that point. But I always did radio, always wanted to be good on camera. But the writing was the thing that really made me focus more than anything.
He's an enigma to me, and here's why. I came up in journalism as well, right? And he is the youngest old person I know. And I say that respectfully because journalism nowadays is non-existent, quite frankly. It's all about entertainment, right?
Yep.
And this is a guy who's a throwback in a way that, listen, I can do TV. Sure, I can do radio, no problem. But he's a journalist, quite frankly. In a day and age that we live in, and I'm not taking shots at TMZ, but I'm taking shots at TMZ. Where it's like, oh, we got you at the strip club. Yeah. And that's the headline, right? Yeah. My man is doing stories. And that matters nowadays. Yeah. I think, to me, he's like the last of a dying breed, especially be so young. I think that means a lot.
I appreciate that. I'll say one last thing about that, though. Getting to work for my hometown paper, the best paper in the world as far as I'm concerned, the Washington Post, has everything to do with that. Wow. The mentorship's there, the people I know, the people who drove me in a direction to find a voice. That doesn't happen without that newsroom, be it sports, be it local, be it style. I'm not going to sit here and act like I just walked into the building and was, doing all sorts of stuff. No, I had to learn. I had to figure out who I was going to be and how I wanted to represent myself. And that's why papers like the Post need to be around, because they can do that for young writers.
No doubt. All right, Tana, so what's been up with you since the last podcast, man, before we get off into the sports world?
The off season is the off season, man. I feel like I don't do nothing but travel right now. My time is either a couple of days here and I'm off somewhere. Last weekend I spent half of my about 2 or 3 days in Cali. I went out west. I told you I got a little business venture out there. I won't share with everybody, but I'm doing a little something out there on the West Coast.
Y'all got some water? Anybody got some Funyuns?
It's legal.
Hey,
It's legal.
Swallowed up in this thing, huh? Yeah, I got a little venture out there with a good, friend of mine, man. And, I just went out there to check on business. I hadn't been out there in the area in a while. And like you say, when I have time to really, lay back or kick it, to me that was like a business / getaway, just so I can, lay my hair down. I ain't got too much more hair, these days. I used to have it back in the day. But no, I needed that getaway. I wanted to see Cali again, and knowing I can go there every month to check on business, it was good to start this new year off, having my first experience.
Not to be too in your business, are you a NorCal or a SoCal guy?
You know what? Tell you the truth, we're based in South
L.A., isn't it?
Yeah, L.A.,
Yeah. Okay.
North Hills,
Okay.
actually. So,
All right.
yeah.
SoCal it is.
Let's talk about Cali a little bit. It's something about it. Now, it's expensive as hell out there.
Oh, yeah, it is.
It is here, too.
I tell you, everywhere. But you get 900 square feet for $2 million.
That's crazy.
That's ridiculous.
I agree.
But just the vibe I get when I'm out there, man. I mean, I understand because the weather is what it is.
Yeah, don't sleep on the weather being a factor.
Yeah,
People are
weather
chilling
big
because
factor.
it's nice.
One knock I got on Cali is the traffic.
It's crazy.
The traffic is ridiculous. Now,
crazy.
I had a stint in New York, and he talked about 9/11. That kind of was dear to me because that was my first year in the league, and I was drafted that year by New York Jets. So our experience, I remember that Tuesday like it was no other because I was going in for treatment. I tore my knee up before the season even started. So I was going in for treatment, and we can go on and on about that. But the traffic in New York, I thought it was ridiculous until I went to Cali, until I spent a couple of days in Cali. And you literally have to plan your day to say, if I need to be somewhere at 3, I'm leaving at 10 o'clock. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. And if you have to be somewhere at 8 o'clock that night, you have to leave like midday, because you have to beat the traffic. And it's crazy. So, I enjoy the atmosphere. I enjoy the climate. I enjoy the people. I was giving my friends a little insight of watching the Kardashian show and having a chance to stay in Calabasas for the first time. It was like being a part of the Kardashian show. I walked around in Calabasas and I saw women, in their early or late 50s, riding around with bomber jackets on, had skinny jeans with the J's, the number ones, and Scully's on, and pushing Rolls Royce trucks.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, this is a show.
Shout outs to all the MILFs out there, no matter where you live.
This is
we
a show.
appreciate you.
Have you ever been to Calabasas?
Nah.
It
no.
is a fascinating
Bro,
place.
it's. I was like, I can stay here every time I take this trip. Like, it was something to see,
Wow.
The air is a little different. You know how you say it tastes a little different?
Taste the air.
Yeah.
It's definitely a different place. And
No
it's not
doubt.
even it's different even from LA proper. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Cali is weird,
See,
and
I've been
Calabasas on its own
Yeah.
is its own little world.
It's its own little world.
It's quite the place.
I
I gotta
enjoy
go
my
check
time.
it out. It sounds like I get in trouble there, so I'll probably just stay out of Calabasas.
We'll leave you here.
Yeah, good call. All right, let's get into the Redskins. I'm going to start with Clinton because I want to take a shot at a colleague, and then I want to ask his opinion. Stephen A. Smith is reporting that Nick Foles should go to the Redskins. So let's start here. I have a problem with Stephen A. Smith talking football ever at this point.
Okay.
With some of the
We won't get into
of
that,
the mistakes he's made.
Noted,
Clinton.
but we're not going to get into that.
What do
that
you
man
think
is
about
the hardest working man in the business.
What do you think
Anyway.
about Foles? And that might be some of the reason. I think he might be stretched too damn thin.
Hey, man,
he
he's
does
doing
his
a lot.
thing.
He
He's
does
doing a lot.
Smartest guy in the business, best in the business, so that's where I'll leave that. Everybody makes mistakes.
What do you
I'll
think
make 'em
about
too.
Foles to the Skins? Because I disagree with it.
Well, first of all, from a roster standpoint, this is going to be almost impossible to pull off.
Right.
You're going to have to make an early decision on Alex Smith, and I don't think this franchise is ready to do that, frankly. Because when we saw Bruce at the Senior Bowl, he was acting like, oh, yeah, he's right on time for rehab. And I'm thinking to myself, Bruce Allen, what are you talking about? Like, this guy's leg was blown all the way up, and I'm not trying to be flip about that. And you see him at the Wizards game with his son. He's got the full die-cast situation. It looked
Brackets
like,
and all that.
You're thinking this has not gone well at all. And so I don't even want to begin the discussion necessarily about Foles. I mean, I will until we've got a decision on what's going to happen with Alex and what you're going to do about the quarterback situation. Because, look, Colts is fine as an option, but he's still a backup in this league. You're not going to go into a season expecting to do anything with Colt McCoy, and I like Colt. But you've got to decide, all right, are we going to try to replace Alex? Then we've got the cap hit. He's $25 million locked up. That's tough. Yep. And, considering how the front office moves for this franchise, having to make one decision in order to make another big one does not bode well.
Right.
And I don't, if it's me, I draft a quarterback.
Me too.
I draft a quarterback, and I go with Colts.
See, I
don't
like
think
this
Foles
guy.
Cheap labor, too.
I don't think
knew
Foles
I
would
liked
be a
this
bad
guy.
fit.
Yeah.
But for what you're doing from a timeline standpoint, plugging him in there doesn't make any sense considering how it would mess up your cap. So
I agree.
It's not a knock on Nick. It's the fact that the way that this is all shaken out from a personnel standpoint does not lead me to think that this is the route to go for the quarterback position.
You agree?
Great answer. Great answer. I say to myself that, okay, Nick might be the best suitable guy out there because of what he's shown these past 2 seasons. Do he fits our system? No. We've seen time and time again, even with Alex playing last year, we didn't understand why he didn't look like Alex of old in Kansas City or San Fran. So I don't think Nick just come in here and solve our problem, especially with a guy being of age that, sooner or later he's going to be out the door.
And expensive.
We put too much money in Alex for one, so we have to roll with that.
Yep.
2, you have a guy in Colt that's he's a backup, but he couldn't give you a game or 2. So I say you get a young guy. Not sure where you get that young guy. I'm not necessarily saying you use that first round pick because I don't think that's necessarily for a quarterback in our standpoint. But you get a young guy in the draft. You roll with Colt. Colt starting the season off, having a whole season to prepare or off season to prepare and saying he's the guy. You never know what kind of Colt you get out of him. The only knock I have on Colt, he gets injured.
He's injured.
So with that young guy, you have to bring in somebody that's going to be the future. Besides Alex and Colt, you know that this guy coming in, if we groom him well enough, if Colt goes down, Colt don't pan out, Alex don't pan out and not be able to play this year, we can push this young guy in and start our future now.
Let me hold you there for a second because you said you don't want to draft a quarterback at 15 in the first round. Yeah, I absolutely do. In fact, I'd be okay if they moved up within reason to get a guy.
If somebody's available. If you see a franchise guy there.
Hold on. We don't have to be general. Yeah. Who are we talking about? Who do you think that person would be?
So the only guy I'm looking at, and I can't even say his name right now, but the kid from West Virginia to me stands out more than anybody.
Yeah. I like him.
I hear these names, Gaston. I hear these names. You're talking about Murray.
Haskins, Murray.
All
Daniel
these other
Jones.
guys. Yeah, it's so many other talents out there. So I'm not necessarily sure where some of these guys are going to fall. I'm pretty sure in the near future we'll hear more and we'll know where these guys are lining up.
From West Virginia.
But I like Greer. I like him. I like him a lot. Just seeing what he's done on the college level. I think he has the potential to come in here. Redskins, we find ourselves striking out when it comes to those kind of guys in the draft. We had the RG3 who I thought that can be the future here. Don't understand how that blew up. I understand, but I don't understand. Before that we had a Jason Campbell who we picked to be the future guy. That blew up in our face. We find ourselves having more production with the free agents guys, the guys we bring in. So I'm not sure we should go out. The reason why I say I'm not sure we should go out there and waste that pick because we strike out more than
the history of
the history of what we
That's
do.
an excellent point. And to take that further, quarterback, I say this all the time, Tana, quarterback is the worst coach position in the NFL. And so guys developing into great guys, it happens so rarely. It's so unfortunate because you see young guys come in and sure, they'll either take their knocks and they'll improve, but very rarely at this stage you see a guy who you're like, okay, that dude was somebody and then turns into a superstar. Yeah. That doesn't happen anymore in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And I certainly don't trust this franchise to do it either. That's what I'm saying,
No doubt.
We're coming off this Kyler stuff and we're going to talk about it, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
It would be really hard not to justify not picking him.
Yeah.
From a star standpoint, from a development standpoint. And what I always say about Kyler is that the knock on him is that he's not going to be the super tall guy. He's, some people call him a little bit of a faster Russell Wilson. I think he can be basically the best system quarterback you've ever seen. Yeah. He doesn't have to do everything, stand tall. And that's sort of an underrated element I think about a lot of quarterbacks. I say this about Tom Brady all the time. You want to call him a system quarterback? Yeah, he's the best one ever because he does everything exactly right. Kyler Murray is a very smart guy, and I believe that if you've got a system that you believe he can execute, and he's fast enough, and he's got the arm, and he's got the leadership of men, well, then why not go for it? Yeah. He doesn't have to go out there and wow the world with everything. Just make him an NFL quarterback, and his physical skill set will hopefully get your team to a better place. That's why I'm going with Kyler beyond the star power factor.
I completely agree. I've said on this show ad nauseum that I think the NFL nowadays is set up for a guy like him to succeed, and we've seen it happen because you can't really touch the quarterback anyways. They get rid of it quickly, and you can't touch receivers. He's accurate. I mean, to me, it makes sense to get a guy like that. Hell, even offensive linemen are getting smaller historically in the NFL. I think this is a perfect time to take a chance on a kid like that. So while we're talking about him, he just announced this week he is definitely going NFL. Baseball's behind him. Tana, your thoughts on that? Is he making the right decision?
Who knows? You got to go with your heart. You know, one of the things I know about this game and about anything that you decide to do in life, it's about your heart. When you you get into those situations where, you know, I just watched the Deion 30 for 30.
Yeah, it was great.
And it was great. And it's crazy because you grew up in the area. I remember I wanted those diamond, what is it called? Diamond turfs.
Diamond turfs, yeah.
I wanted those so bad. And we ain't had the money for them, you know. And then it was like 4 or 5 years later, I started getting Jordans. So I'm like, man, I want to go back and get those diamond turfs. That was my favorite shoe in middle school. Never had the money to get them. So I didn't get them then. I ended up buying a pair later on when I can buy my own shoes. But Deion was Michael Jordan at that time. He was Jordan to me when it came to sports. Deion could do no wrong in my eyes because I didn't know much about him as baseball, but as a cornerback and as a guy who was just skilled to do whatever he wanted to do on the football field, I thought he was the greatest that ever did it. And to see the opportunity that he had, to see the story about what happened, what transpired when he was going through I thought it was just simply, hey, I'm going to go play baseball, I'm going to play football. I did not know he went through what he went through.
Yeah, the Braves jacked him up.
And so when you look at a Kyler Murray coming in this situation, it has never been done from a quarterback standpoint to be able to do what Deion did or Bo did. So already he knew that one of these had to be my decision.
Right. Yeah.
So he picked what was at heart, football. He felt that, hey, at the end of the day, if I don't make it as a quarterback, NFL quarterback, I can always go back.
Yep.
I can't necessarily be baseball, committed to baseball fully, and then 5 years removed and say, well, you know what, I want to try this quarterback thing.
Yeah, you're right.
It don't work that way.
So
financially, you could talk about the money standpoint, you could talk about whatever. I feel like right now, what he truly feels in his heart that he's desired to do is be an NFL quarterback. And I do believe that someone is in his ear saying that if you look at the game, the evolution of the NFL game at the quarterback position has allowed guys like yourself to excel.
That's it.
You can look at the guy Manziel. You can look at Baker Mayfield. You can look at all these guys, regardless of what they did. They're opening these doors for guys like yourself to be special.
Russell Wilson.
So if you can come in here and be who you showed us to be, of that Heisman caliber player on the college level, and be that kind of player on the NFL level, you know, you can be a backup and still get the money that he was supposed to get. It'll work eventually. So I think at heart he feel like, hey, I can be more productive as a football player than I am as a guy trying to make it to the majors, and he went with his heart.
Did he make the right decision?
So there's a couple things about this. And, Tana, I want to get your thoughts on this because this is why I think he chose football. You say it's in his heart, but there's also an element of he's a young guy. Like, what would you just rather be doing in terms of, forget the sports, forget the game, in terms of what your life is? You want to take pop flies in Peoria, or do you want to be an NFL quarterback? How big was the football stadium at your high school, Tana? How many people do you think it held?
I don't know, probably 30,000.
In high school?
What? No, not in high school. I'm sorry. Probably no more than 7,000 to 8,000.
Okay. Kyler Murray went to Allen High School, which I wrote in a story about him, is if you mated Friday Night Lights with Varsity Blues, you'd get Allen. They play in an 18,000 person seat stadium.
Crazy.
In high school. My man never lost a game. He started as a sophomore on. Won 3 straight state titles, is arguably the best high school quarterback in the history of Texas. Which is saying a lot.
Yeah.
He goes to Oklahoma, goes to A&M, transfers to Oklahoma, still on the big stage. If you're playing football at that stage, you're going to keep playing football at that stage. And it's just what his life is. Listen, baseball's nice, and I get it. I'm a baseball guy at heart. And I completely understand beyond the money why he just might want to do it because it's more fun. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? This dude knows the big time. And I'm never going to blame anybody for that because, you know, look, there's, you know, you can play 2 sports, you know, at the same time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's going to make sense for the rest of your life. No. And I don't know, it's a bummer because baseball loses a potential star, but ultimately I think Kyler made the right decision for him. Yeah. And when I talked to him, he said straight up to me, baseball's boring. It's hard to sit through an entire Major League Baseball game. Football. And so if he doesn't like it that much, it doesn't matter how good he might be, he's not going to excel at the same rate.
Look, beyond, you know, and I wanted to, you know, chime in on this again, you know, when it came down to what sport you want to pick, I was pretty good as a lone jumper and triple jumper in college, high school and college, state champion in high school, champion in college, got a chance to go to the nationals. My jump was good enough to go to the Olympic trials. So when I sat down and thought 10 years from now, what I want to be known for, what I want to do, what drives me to be me, it was football. Mm-hmm. To me, when it comes to what you have to do in track to be the elite guy and get the money that you get in football, it was a no-brainer.
Right.
But that decision was easy because at heart, I was
That's
a
what you
football
wanted to
player.
do.
I didn't practice track.
Right.
I can go out there and be a great jumper. You know, I'm not saying sprinting, because sprinting, you have to go out there and put your all behind that. I was fast enough to do what I did, and I was okay with that. I didn't want to be the fastest man in the world. I wanted to be the fastest between those white lines, you know, to get to the end zone. So I was appreciative enough to know that I had enough talent to maybe consider that I can be an Olympian one day. Maybe I can have a shot at that if I put my all into it. But that didn't drive me. That didn't make me get out of bed and say, I'm hungry. I can't do nothing. I can't think straight because I have this in the back of my mind. That was football for me.
I think you made the right decision because now we have the Santana Moss Show podcast.
Yes.
If he
and
followed
years
the track,
of excellent memories as
Who
well.
knows?
If he followed the
Who
track
knows?
path, he would have got a Wheaties box
I
at most.
would probably be sponsored by Saucony, and
True.
it probably wouldn't last long because no one wears Saucony.
Yeah,
these
exactly.
days.
Shout outs to Adidas, too. My man is rocking. All right, let's go around the league. Kareem Hunt signs with the Browns. Were you surprised by this? How long will suspension be? The whole shebang bang.
I wasn't surprised. We knew that he'd probably get a second chance. I think the severity of this situation was a little different from being something of a domestic violence case. It was uncalled for. We can say that much of it. But when you really look at the thick of things, it was a lot going on, and it was something to me, I think, that just transpired in a night that someone should have stepped up and say, man, let me take this guy in. He's intoxicated. The whole situation looked like it was just a blur
Just
for
shut
everybody.
it down.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Someone should have been bigger. And you know, we talk about this all the time, that I have guys around me for that purpose, to be the bigger guy and say, if you see me at a stake, get me out of that situation.
Right.
So he's just a young guy that needs to know more about that and handle it a lot different. I'm happy he did get a second chance because I feel like in life, we all have skeletons. We all do something that we can sit back and say right now to this day that, man, I wish I didn't do that.
No doubt.
But you get a second chance. You get a chance to go out there and bury whatever you did. I can't say that now because there's a lot of stuff now. You seeing people, politicians, and you name it, actors and different people of those sorts that 30 years ago, whatever they did is coming back to turf. But we're not going to speak on that. But I just feel like everyone deserves a chance to really, redefine who they really are.
How long is he going to be suspended? Because I think 4 games. You think longer?
So when it comes down, we just talked about that. When it comes down to what they're going to give him, I don't know. We know he's going to be reprimanded. We know that at the end of the day, he deserves some kind of punishment because it's only fair. You know, it's already going to be some flack thrown at the commissioner and whoever else for picking this guy or giving him this chance. So at the end of the day, they have to make a statement and say, hey, at the end of the day, we're not going to excuse whatever you did. You still did something that we found that it was against our policy and our rules. So we have to reprimand you and probably give you 4 to 6 games. I would say 6 games. You said 4.
I think
we'll
4.
see.
See why?
I talked about this on Around the Horn yesterday, and what I said was the whole situation feels icky. And a lot of people were like, why are you hating on Kareem Hunt? Why won't you let this man do this? And that wasn't really what it was about. It's about this. That incident happened in Cleveland. He's from Cleveland. For Cleveland to sign him, you can't act like it's just a football reason. There's some element of maybe people will like him because he's the hometown dude. And then it starts to feel like he's getting rewarded for being involved. And I'm not saying that that's wrong, and I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve a chance, but that feels odd to me.
It is odd.
It's a scenario in which I kind of wish any other team had signed him, but he's got the relationship there. They weren't the only team that was going to sign him, but
Dorsey's a GM there
who drafted him.
Right.
And so it made sense, but at the same time, from a 10,000-foot level, that's awkward because you think, all right, well, is he going to be around his boys and, sort of be back into that stuff? Or is he going to be home and therefore have the support system that you talk about, Tana? It's really unfortunate that it had to be the Browns, even though from a football standpoint, that probably makes the most sense. You understand what I'm saying?
Because they have Chubb now. They have him. It's a hometown boy, so they can make the story sound better than what it is.
And that's awkward because you don't want to make it seem as if he's being redeemed for something that is not, is not acceptable.
One of the things that stand out the most to me is just the relationship alone he had with Dorsey.
Yeah.
Dorsey's a guy that understands him and knows him.
Right.
And when you have a guy that go on a limb and say, I'm going to put this on my chest or put this on my shoulders and say, you know what, if you want to blame anybody, blame me. It's because he really knows the kid. Yeah. He knows that this is not him. He was at a moment in the time when we all could be in that same situation, and it just transpired a little different and got out of hand. And I think that's why Dorsey went to bat for him and say, I want him on my team.
Do you think he'll miss a year?
No, but I think the problem ultimately, though, is what the NFL is going to have is that he lied to his own team.
Right.
That's going to be the bigger deal here because that you can't have. You know, if you get into a scenario, and I don't know whether he knew there was surveillance or not, and that was going to come out, but Tana, I mean, you get into a scenario like that, you got to be honest because otherwise you're putting other people at risk in terms of what might come back on you, on your team, and on your franchise. So if he gets a longer suspension than we think, that'll be the reason.
That's why.
Which is unfortunate because, he was right. He was scared. He didn't know what to do, and he tried to fudge it because he knew he was already in a bad position. And like, again, I understand that young men make decisions that are regrettable on some level. I'm not trying to say Kareem Hunt never deserves a chance, but that situation, I got to think twice about why he's there, and I really, really hope he turns it around. I really, really hope they have teeth to that treatment thing that they call it, whatever system he's in.
Sure.
I don't know what that is. Tana, you may be able to speak on that more, but I have no idea what that is. I just hope it works.
He has no room for failure, though. Now he's in a state where that it's no more hiccups. I don't care how small it is. There's no more hiccups. And he was a guy, I think pretty much up to that point, that hadn't been talked about wrongly off the field. You know what I mean? So he has to have a clean slate and know that, hey, man, you know what? I basically shot my wire with anything I can do wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, I've been a guy in the offseason. I shared so many stories. I have tons of stories that I can tell you about nights where guys that I was with got into altercations, nights where I shouldn't have been driving. So many of those stories. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, that was my moment, and I escaped it, and guess what? I can't be in that moment again. So he has to have that state of mind. Right. So, you know what? I just had a situation where, this did transpire. I did get suspended, or I got kicked off my team for what transpired. So now I can't put myself in that situation regardless of how much fun I want to have. Regardless, it's not enough fun in the world for me to lose my money or my job behind.
From the NFL to the AAF, Clinton, did you watch the new league that kicked off this past weekend?
I watched more than I thought I was going to watch, and I didn't hate it.
Really?
It wasn't that bad. Look, these leagues come along, these side sports come along, and I'm a big enthusiast. I watch a lot lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
All right, I watch 3-on-3 basketball in Asia. You know what I mean?
I'm watching drone racing.
Right, I watch drone. I'm watching baseball.
That's a new thing. I
love drone
I'm watching
racing.
Australian baseball at 6 in the morning because I'm weird. But you turn it on and you think, okay, well, if it doesn't make me feel different and the product is okay and the production quality is good, I like that replay situation where they have people talking. You can hear things. I love the elimination of kickoffs.
Yep.
And I don't love the elimination of kicks, but I do like the elimination of kickoffs.
Well, they kick field goals, right?
They kick field goals. They don't do
There's no extra points, and there's no kickoffs,
right.
and no onsides and all that.
But
I think they do field goals.
It was fine.
Yeah.
It was competitive.
Yeah.
These guys could play enough. I don't need much more than that when it comes to the football. I mean, I don't need the full Sunday experience. It's not the NFL. I thought it was a nice debut rollout, and what I'm really hoping that we can get out of this is I'm hoping we can see a situation where the coaching trees get altered a little bit, where these young brothers who can't get chances in the NFL get a chance to show themselves from a position coach standpoint that can allow them to get into the pipeline in the NFL, because that's so messed up now. They send brothers to defense all the time, or they send them to be running backs coaches, and they can't get in the fast track for the quarterbacks coach and the offensive coordinator. If this league allows more coaching to be highlighted and thus help the NFL, I think that's a good thing ultimately for everybody.
I hear an article on the Undefeated. It was just birthed right there.
And he spoke about the coaching aspect of it. I spoke about it, when someone asked me about the league and say, hey, how do you feel about the league? Are you going to pay attention to it? Yes. I think it's genius because it comes down to it's a lot of talent out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys out there that
You got a homeboy that plays,
don't make
right?
the cut. Rocket Ross. We talked about Rashard Ross. He was an ex-Redskin. That he was a guy in the number system. I mean, you couldn't easily gave this guy a chance to be on our team any year I was there, any years I was removed from there, and he just was caught up in the number system. If you can play special teams, more than one position, and receiver, you're on the team. If you only playing punt return and receiver, we got somebody that can do 4 things. So you can't be on the team. So he's a guy I talked to all week, last week, and leading up to the game, he went out there and had a star-studded performance.
Who does he play for, right quick?
He played for the Arizona team.
Arizona
Hot Shots.
All right. I like that name, by the way.
Great name.
And he's an Arizona guy when it comes to the school. He went to Arizona State. He's a Cali guy.
Okay.
And, he's a fast guy. He's a guy that I think that with a little more polishing on his game, we talk about different things. Like when he asked me questions about what did I see, I told him, I said, critique yourself very well. I mean, be your worst critic. Be the worst critic of yourself.
Yeah.
And we know you can beat guys deep. I say, in order for you to be able to rewrite what they have on you, the notion of what they have on you as a skilled wide receiver in this league, catch those contested passes, be a guy that can run those intermediate routes.
Across the middle.
And now if you can do all that and with your upscale of being that deep threat, you're an NFL player.
You can show up to a camp and do something, yeah.
So, and I saw that in his game here. He just didn't get a chance to do it enough.
Show it, right.
And he was so young, caught up into just being here. I don't think he even understood how much you have to kind of separate the height of being here and being an NFL player and then taking it as a business and being an NFL player. So just to see him go out there and shine, I love what I saw. I love all the guys who get a second chance, and I think that, it's a great farm league.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think the NFL have something like the AAF, the XFL coming back next year.
Yeah.
They need something that they can say, hey, we can groom some of these guys, and maybe they have potential to be, be a part of our league.
Almost like a minor league.
And another quick thing on that is that, it fulfills a football need, I think, for this country. That's fine. There will be eyeballs on this, and there's nothing wrong with that. More leagues make other leagues better. Yeah. You can learn things from them. So I'm not ever going to root against some league just because it's not the one that I prefer. And in this situation, wasn't that bad. It's not gimmicky. It wasn't goofy. It was football, and that is what I appreciated most.
It was great entertainment, too.
Yeah. Grammy recap, 2 artists that are close to Clinton Yates, Childish Gambino and Cardi B.
Belcalis!
They won every damn thing. So we'll start with you, Clinton. Your thoughts of 2 of your favorite artists right now.
Quickly, I read a tweet from my man Van that said that Offset is like a bad minor, but what did he say? A minor market team trying to hold on to a big superstar.
What?
This dude Offset shows up at every single moment Cardi tries to get and ruins it. Like I don't know what. Cardi got all the awards. You see all the pictures. This man was just standing here.
Hey.
And I'm like, what are you doing?
He's the Ike to her Tina.
Come on, man. So that's just the first thing about what happened on the night that we crowned Belcalis as the queen.
Get it right.
Number 2. I've been rocking with her since well before Love and Hip Hop, since she was just on the gram.
Just talking trash.
Her come up is one of the most excellent things we've seen in America in the last 10 years. You talked about the Kardashians before. Yeah. I've said all the time, the Kardashians are the most important family in the history of American television because the way they went about their business. But when you talk about the American dream,
Cardi
B,
I'm mad Clinton has bullet points for all
and
this.
she's here breaking people off on Twitter about her politics. Her AP history teacher broke somebody down on Facebook talking about she was great in this class in high school. She's smart, y'all. Yeah. Don't let the nails and all the noise fool you.
She did her thing.
And she's got bangers.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's that.
Childish Gambino.
I'm glad he won for that song. I wrote a story about that song, This Is America, in the video and how much it affected me as a black person in America. You can go read that on The Undefeated if you like, but I was glad to see him get that award for that. He's a guy that's been mainstream for a very, very long time. And so for him to get an award for something that was very much not mainstream, I think was good for him and good for sort of the creative world on the whole. But man, get out of Cardi's mentions, Offset.
I asked this question, though. So you like both of these artists, Childish Gambino, the actor or the artist, the rap artist? Who
do you like more?
Donald Glover?
I like the actor a lot.
Donald Glover is that dude to me. Like he's a great actor.
He's a great actor.
Yeah, I'm not even huge on Childish Gambino's music, to be very honest. I like him as an actor, but that song was his magnum opus, and it really hit me hard.
It was.
I agree.
When I talk about the Cardi B thing, and I'm, I don't want to say nothing wrong, but my man might
I didn't mean to pop off, y'all.
No,
I didn't mean to pop off.
I appreciate it. Honestly, I just, trust me, her come up has been one of those things that you actually got a chance to see it transform. You actually got a chance to sit here and say, this girl went from cussing and fussing through IG and doing her thing, what she did at them strip clubs or whatever you might call it, got her bag, however she had to get it, and now she's a star. She's the first woman to win Best Album over, to me, I thought was a men's sport. We just thought years ago, it was 2 or 3 years ago when we said it was no longer women rappers, but Nicki Minaj. You know what I'm saying? This rap world wasn't allowing women to come back into
She harder than the dudes, bro.
And to see her be the first one, I don't know if I'm to the point to where I think that I should applaud or say, is the rap game that watered down now? When it comes to, it seemed a little odd. I praise her because I saw where she come from.
Right.
I praise her also because even though you talked about Offset saying that he's like Ike Turner standing next to her. Look, I'm a big fan of Migos.
I am too.
I love the Migos, and I think Offset might be one of the best rappers in that group. So I understand where it comes in, and I actually like what they have going on. It's weird, I just saw a couple of videos some months ago where he was just trying to get her back, and now they back like nothing.
That's what
happened.
I'm saying. He's out here ruining her moments.
He's messing it
But
up.
just to see where she's at, where she come from, you have to applaud her. You have to applaud her because she actually, basically what we just talked about, like he just said about who he's become, with his game and what he does for a living. You're basically giving these kids a chance to see that you can be whatever you want to be, as long as you put your mind to it, as long as you put the work behind it. And she did that. She's shown that. I laughed and I kind of, applaud her when I watched her performance that night.
Right.
Yep.
I'm like, here's somebody that went out there, and this is proof that you can do anything you put your mind to.
That big stage.
Because she went out there and owned that at the Grammys, which is hard,
Yeah, it's not an
it's
easy
a hard
stage.
thing to do. It's not an easy stage. So to see her go out there and own it, to see her go out there, and now to me to look at her as, you're a rapper, Cardi B.
Right.
Regardless of what they say
She's
you
a
was,
star.
Yep.
regardless of what that little stuff come out your mouth, that I'd be like, man, somebody need to mute her at times. At times, because sometimes you be like, boy, what is she talking about? She's a star.
Yes, she
She's
is.
a star in her own right, and I applaud her. I think she can put that trophy up and say, I need more, because that should manifest a lot more out of you. Make sure that you don't get complacent and say, hey, I'm not satisfied with that.
Here's the you, Cardi B. Oh, taking L's. We'll go to all the dudes out there on the struggle bus for Valentine's Day. Of course, all three of us are Casanovas, so that would never happen.
Yeah.
So here's to you, all the dudes struggling for Valentine's Day. Just
Have
keep
fun.
it simple. Keep it simple. Flowers, chocolate, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. Hey, Clinton, unbelievable
thank you,
having you,
fam.
man.
It is great to be
You
here.
got to come back. This can't be a
Yeah,
one-on-one.
yeah.
You got to come back.
I know where y'all live.
No doubt.
There it is.
I'll be here, showing up at your door.
No doubt. He's going to be like Offset on this show.
Hey, you don't need to knock. Just walk in.
Santana Mall Show is a
Love to
wrap.
have you, man. Thank you, brother.
It's a Santana my show. Number 89, hustle all the time. Travis on the right, hot mic on the left. Every single week, it's a lyrical